So I've been going through a lot of the more recent quests in OSRS, and I've been having a really good time. And I've been having this thought where, why do all these new quests work so well compared to some of the old stuff, even if that's remembered really well? So I put it down to about 3 main key points that I think show why some of the older quests kind of suck. The first one is the main one. It's if you look at quests as a series of puzzles, whether or not they're actually the main focus, like say Underground Pass where it's an actual puzzle, or even just I need to go find this item to do this interaction with this NPC, they don't do a very good job of defining what your pieces are. Some of them do, especially something where it's instant. So you know that, okay, I'm on this island. Anything that I would have to use has to be here. I can't bring anything. That's good, because then you know, here's all my pieces, there's a limited set of moves, and you can figure something out. But when I look at the majority of quests in the game, since they don't have that same kind of definition of scope, basically you could theoretically use any single item in the game for the next advancement. So that means you really can't solve it easily on your own, because you don't know that you might need a spade. Or you don't know that, oh, maybe you don't need a spade, you need a trowel, which are 2 entirely different items. Or you don't know if maybe you have to have some other weird requirement done that isn't listed just so you can get a certain dialogue. It doesn't define the pieces for you to put in the puzzle. This is just the biggest thing I think with the old one is it encourages guides, because you don't want to be doing all this stuff to just try and guess when you could go look at a guide just because you don't know you need one specific item that you should have brought here with you. It's actually kind of frustrating. I would love to be able to do quests on my own without a guide, but it's just not realistic. I don't want to have to go through every single item in my bank just trying it on other NPCs just to see which one works in this situation. And they're not all terrible. Like in most cases, when you need a spade, it's obvious you need a spade. But there's some interactions in some of those early quests that are just completely out there. And I think the other thing is, even if you do figure out what you need, it can just cost you so much time, because I know there's some quests where you'll get, let's say like Monkey Madness. You might go through the entire maze portion and then not realize, oh, I needed to bring this item. And now that I spoke to him, he tells me that, okay, then now I gotta do it again. And then it's just frustrating for the player. It's not something that's interesting or immersive. It's just, man, I really wish I just looked it up so I didn't have to go do this twice. And I just think that's so frustrating. And I think that's the biggest issue with some of those other quests. And I think even the newer quests kind of suffer from that. They aren't as big in scope, and they're actually pretty good, but I would love for the quest to get to the point where it's like you want to solve them on your own, because that's the best experience, instead of right now following a guide just because that's basically how they're meant to be consumed. The second point is either lack of direction or too much direction. So this is the same thing kind of as with the items, where either you are told exactly what to do by the quest log or the NPC, and they are essentially saying, go to this NPC and click on him, or go here and do this in this action. That's a little bit too much, and it doesn't feel like a quest. It just feels like kind of a walking simulator where you just need to go to the right places and click the right inputs. It's not really immersive to the player. It's just, okay, I need to go hit the next glowing thing to get my next little reward. It doesn't do much for me. But then there's other quests in this game where it's just entirely open. Like you get one clue, and if you don't make sense of that clue, it's just, sorry, now you have the entire world out there to just figure out what's going on. And because of the way quests are written, only a select subset of NPCs or items in the world will react to you being on the quest. I don't know if this is possible at all, but it'd be really nice to have some kind of way to, like, I don't know, ask generic NPCs about your quest, and they would just give you a nice little hint. Or maybe if you just interact with other objects and it knows you're on a certain quest, it overrides the examine text to be like, oh no, you don't need these crates, you're looking for the barrels over in this area for this quest. Something like that, just so you can constantly find just little clues that point you in the overall direction without it being, here it is, go here, just click on the thing. Because I don't like that either. I would like to see the quest log slightly improved. I actually think it's surprisingly useful, and I always forget to use it, but I would love for the quest log to almost get a nice little update and just go back through and maybe get some like lore text in there. Be like, here's the background and here's what's going on and why you're doing this, to kind of give more of a context. Like, they really need to make that something where the player goes there after not having played a week and be like, what was I doing? I would love for that to be just something more interesting than a very terse checklist of random steps that don't seem to matter to the quest. But that's just my take. It's one of those things where if you go through with a guide, it's pretty much something you just ignore, but I would really want them to get to the point where you are encouraged to do it without a guide. And the third one, and I think this is the one that hits home most to me, is that the risk is just too high and enemies are hardly foreshadowed. Now, this isn't always the case. Like, there's plenty of times where it's like, oh, you're going to have to fight a boss and the NPCs warn you. Like, if you lose your items here, you're going to lose them forever. or hey, watch out, there's an enemy coming. But I know there's other times I would go do a quest and I would bring essentially my light gear, like graceful, spades, energy potions, that thing, and then I walk through and it's like, oh, this is a high level area, so now I have to stop, go back, gear up, and then I can go through. And it's just, again, it's frustrating, especially if it's, say, instanced and I think maybe I can make it, or I didn't think to bring a teleport. That's just frustrating. So many things in the quest are just like, oh, hey, guess what, you didn't know this thing, stop what you're doing, go back to the bank, then try again. And that's just, it just kills it for me. But more so than anything, I feel like quests should be something that are the high point for the player, and they should let the player show off, I guess, their prowess. And that's one thing that I kind of hated, is that it should be this awesome idea of me, I'm going to go fight this boss who's this big enemy of this quest. I'm going to bring my best gear. It's going to be this showdown. And instead, it's more, oh, it's instance. I don't really know how strong he is other than the general level. So I'm going to bring my budget gear and kind of feel it out. And it just feels like not okay. Instead of this, like, what's meant to be this big iconic thing, it's me buying this random gear I have no attachment to. I don't really know how much it's going to be, and I don't know if I can defeat it. Basically, every boss pre-Monkey Madness 2 going in, when I just sat down and looked at it, I'm just like, I'm just going to get max levels before I even fight this, because, like, I'm not going to risk it. There's no fun in that. I think I actually hurt myself because what could have been all these iconic fights that probably were interesting to players when it came out at the right level, I just steamroll over and I left absolutely zero impression on me. And I think that's kind of sad. And I don't know exactly how they can do this without, again, like the second point, being too blunt, because you also want to be able to prep for certain mechanics. Like, it really sucks to go into a boss fight and you're like, okay, I got all my gear, I got all my pots. You go in, you hit him a couple times, and then he poisons you. And it's like, oh, well, again, stop what I'm doing. I guess this is a poison thing. Let me go reset. It's just not fun. And I just wish there was a way to foreshadow stuff like that, so it's actually like one big commit. Take your best gear. You have everything. You're solving this puzzle of being this monster, and you know it's coming, and you can just have fun instead of it being, I guess I have to kill this guy. It's going to, either I'm going to stomp him or he's going to stomp me, and I'm just going to go look up how to do it. It's not fun. And I don't really know how to fix that. It's just something that, when I was doing my questcape, was such a sore point, where it's like, oh, I have to go fight a boss. It's a whole thing, and you don't know when it's coming, but the other way you have to, like, deal with it is just that I don't want to have to carry my heavy gear everywhere just in case, because then again, it's frustrating. I can't run anywhere. It's just lengthening the quest for no real reason. I guess the main points I would like to see, to learn from the old quest, is I want to see some way that players can be encouraged to run quests blind, and it actually be a reasonable way to do that. I personally haven't run them blind, so maybe they are way better than I had realized, but I just know so many of those just seem like completely arbitrary, where you get one hint, and if you don't know it, you would be wandering around for months, or just like asking around to try and find the answer. I think by default, players should be able to load up a quest, go do it all themselves, and have a good time. That's, I think, should be the goal. They should know, okay, what kind of things are in the scope of the quest, whether that be, I don't know, maybe saying required items in the quest log. They should know who they might need to talk to or where they could go to get more clues. 3, they should be able to foreshadow when combat is coming so you could prep within reason. I don't know, again, the best way to do this, because I really don't think combat level is a good indicator of how tough a fight can be, but especially if there's mechanics, those need to be foreshadowed, and just have some way where that all the fights in the game or the dangerous portions are actually the fun, interesting parts, instead of being this just giant sore point that it's like, oh, damn it, I have to go back and rebank. I think that's the biggest thing, is at no point should a player be just wasting time. Like, because like, oh, I forgot the one thing, let me go reset all of this. Like, I can't imagine like someone going through Underground Pass blind and getting halfway through it and then learning, oh, I didn't know I had to bring a rope. Cool, let me just go redo everything. You should never actually have that, unless the player themselves just is ignoring every single clue. And 3, I think there should be some better note-taking in terms of quests, whether that improves the quest log, if they allow players to have notes in the client, or just more interactions with NPCs and objects in the world that constantly point you towards the solution to some quest. So that players could actually solve it on their own and actually get immersed, instead of it just feeling like a bunch of arbitrary things I'm clicking on to get the reward that I want. Hey, I'm Grant. I make these little discussion videos on OSRS every Saturday in my spare time with my views as a more casual player. A like and subscribe goes a long way to make sure these keep coming out, and if you ever want to, you can contact me in-game under the same name if you ever just want to chat or lend any advice. Hope to see you around the channel, and I'll be back again next Saturday.